here.
Hello, hello, welcome back. For you, it might be 3 minutes past 10 on a Thursday night, Eastern time. Oh, let me get this camera right. For me, it is 3 minutes past 4 on a Friday on the 27th of February, another warm day. My hair and my beard are getting long. I am live on YouTube for what it's worth, so you can see, well, the video. But audio is perfectly acceptable, as acceptable as it can be. What am I trying to say? Got issues here on the Discord. Let's figure this out. You probably can't hear me. All right. Let me just go back to this. Yeah, so. Yeah, that should be all there. So yeah, I'm on YouTube. The link's on the Discord server. And you are tuned into Revolution Radio, the #1 listener-supported radio station on the internet. So please help, or please consider supporting our efforts and airtime by visiting the station's donation section on our website. It's freedomslips.net. I've been saying revolution.radio this whole time, but we have a new website. Might have always been there. freedomslips.net. Fantastic new looking website. Looks amazing. And that's designed and organized by Mr. Rowe. And if you need any website kind of stuff, help, services, feel free to reach out to Mr. Rowe. He's obviously got the skills if you have a look at freedomslips.net. And so, yeah, there we go. Listen, supported, donate, etc. To keep things alive. I was going to do another replay, but I decided it's time to start going back live again. I've been doing lots of fun DIY stuff on the house, fixing up the bathroom. Obviously, the vanity's not there and no mirror. That's why I have a giant homeless man's beard and rag top here. But I'm quite liking the look, and my niece and nephew, one of my nieces and one of my nephews are convinced that I am Santa Claus. True story. So they call me Santa. And I love that. Speaking of Santa Claus, this is something that I'm segueing into for the show. People in the truth community, when they talk about, well, just generally people, but the reason I say people in the truth community is because, you know, if you're in the truth community and you're talking stuff or truth, you're smart, right? So you know more than people that aren't, really. That's the truth, okay? So this is a critique of you, if you are this kind of person. Because we care about the kids, right? Everyone cares about the children, but people in the truth community have a bit more invested in at least in their mind, about what what to do for the kids and stuff like that. And I've heard a number of times an example about speaking the truth to children and young children, and an example is Santa Claus. And people use Santa Claus as an example of, as a prime example of the lies and indoctrination that we are fed from an early age. And just to be clear on from where I sit and from what I've done and from what I've experienced and what I've read, that's absolutely wrong, unfortunately. And it's tough because if you're in the truth movement and you're wrong, well, what are you? You're a PSYOP. You're a CIA agent. You're an FBI informant. You're a reptilian overlord or underling or peon. I don't know. You get what I'm saying, right? If you're in the truth movement and you're wrong, it's kind of like, it's kind of hard. It's hard to be right, but if you're wrong in the truth movement, it's very easy to be wrong. And then when you're wrong in the truth movement, oh my gosh, woe betide you. But oftentimes when you're wrong in the truth movement, you're not wrong. You're viewed as right because you're in the truth movement. You're subscribed to a brand that is truth. So you might say something wrong, but that comes under the umbrella of Truth Registered Trademark Incorporated. And people say, yes, I agree. And what I do know is the real truth. I'm not saying you're all lying about everything. I don't even know who you are. I'm just saying those out there. I'm not saying you're wrong, but what I'm saying is young children believing in Santa is not bad. In fact, it's good. Could it be better? Yes. Maybe they should be believing in Krampus, perhaps. Maybe they should be venerating a god that was venerated in antiquity by us and our ancestors. The one thing that might be bad about Santa is it's kind of commercialized, right? But it's just a name for the same concept. And what we will get into, or we have gotten into in past episodes, is that, I'm starting to learn, and if you're learning too, then we are starting to learn that these distortions and deviations from the truth, not registered trademark, but the pure essence of whatever it is, and in this sense, whatever Santa Claus evolved from or devolved from, near enough is good enough. Near enough is good enough. Closer is better. Okay? And, so Santa Claus good. And I have a question for you. I don't know if it's rhetorical or not. Just going to the chat room here. 5x5 Gino from Eagle Flower. Thank you, Eagle Flower. Mitzi says, hello. Having a party. Well, I'm not going to say it's a party because it might be a pretty dry party. I haven't even got a drink. Oh, my throat's parched. But yes, well, we're around here. Rhetorical question, or a question if you are around. I do really want to know. Do you remember when you found out that Santa Claus was not real? I know it's an odd time to be talking about Santa, but hey. Do you know, or do you remember the day or the moment when you found out that Santa was not real? When is an appropriate time to find out that Santa is not real? I believe that Santa not being real is something that just dissipates over time. It's not a revelation. I don't know. People say it's an initiation. I don't know. This is just my theory. My theory is that the concept of Santa, the realization that Santa doesn't exist, I think just naturally realizes, probably at the time when you become around between sort of 7, 8, 9 years old, when you start to realize that you are an individual and you are separate to that around you and those around you, and you're different, as in you're unique to other things and other people, and you're an individual. And I believe that's probably when you just sort of realize yourself that, hey, Santa is probably not a big deal. in the sense that, like, if it is such a big lie, and say the lie kept going, would we all believe in Santa now, and how would that affect things? So the point of my story is, another segue into this little bit that I got coming up is Rudolf Steiner. From his lecture on the 3rd of May in 1920. 1920. Is that correct? That must be very close to when he passed away. On the renewal of education, teaching zoology and botany to children 9 through 12, and 9 years old to 12. Here's a good thing about Steiner, okay? And here's an important thing. Think about your schooling, the children in your life, their schooling and upbringing, and it's always about advancement, right? Oh, you're so smart, you should do the next level. You should do the next thing. And it was always, what stream of the class would you be in? And a lot of people were advanced, right? Like 9-year-olds doing 10-year-old stuff, or 8-year-olds doing 9-year-old stuff, so on and so forth. Well, that's the inversion of really the way you should go about it. Why? Because Steiner said so. Long story short. These are the kind of things you probably can't take from me. You just have to be crazy enough to read hours and hours and hours and pages and pages and pages of Rudolf Steiner's work, digesting that. But let's just read a little bit of his lecture, The Renewal of Education, Teaching Zoology and Botany to Children 9 through 12. It's just going to open a little door into what I'm talking about with the Santa Claus. Here we go. At the age of 9, the child experiences a truly complete transformation of her being that indicates an important transformation of her soul life, as well as her physical experience. At that time, the human being begins to feel separated from her surroundings and learns to differentiate. Let me just get this up a little bit better on the old video. Don't know if that makes it more fun, but here we go. Okay, now computer not working properly. Yeah. Learns to differentiate between the world and herself. So this happens between 7 and 9 years old. 7 being like the probably most important birthday of a human being's life, believe it or not. Crucial. A marker of what really happened or didn't happen, what went well or didn't go well in those first 7 years coming online, to then play out erroneously or or well for the coming years and for setting you up for life. What set you up for life? It's a very important time. Yes, so differentiate between the world and herself. If we can observe accurately, we have to admit that until that transformation, the world and the I, being the consciousness of the individual, the awareness of self, are more or less conjoined in human consciousness. So until that transformation, so before, he's saying 9 because he's kind and gives things time and space to develop, because it's not rigid. Science has more, like modern science has become more accurate with the exact time and just giving it 7 years old. But the transformation at 7 really completes it around 9, according to Steiner. But there's a bit of leeway is what I'm saying. Yeah, so beginning at age 9, human beings can differentiate between themselves and the world. And we must take into consideration in what and how we teach children starting at the age of 9. Until then, it is best not to confuse them with descriptions and characterizations of things that are separate from the human being, or that we should consider separate from the human being. When we tell a child a story or a fairy tale, we describe the animals and perhaps the plants in the way we would speak about people. And those are in particular fables, right? Anthropomorphic animals. In a certain sense, we personify plants and animals. We can justifiably personify them because the child cannot yet differentiate between herself and the world. That is why we should show the child the world in a way similar to the way he or she experiences it. You should be clear that what I am suggesting does not diminish childhood before the age of 9, but enriches it. My last statement may seem quite paradoxical to you, but much of what people say about the child's life is said in such a way that the child's life does not actually become richer, but rather poorer. Think for a moment of what modern people often say when a child injures himself on the corner of a table and hits the table in rage. Today, people say that children's souls have something called animism. In a certain sense, the child makes the table alive by pushing his or her soul into the table. This is an impossible theory. Why? Because children do not directly perceive themselves as something living, something that can put itself into the table and personify it. Rather, children do not think of themselves as any more alive than the table. Children look at the table and experience no more of themselves than they do of the table. It is not that the child personifies the table, but, if I can express it this way, the child tables his or her own personality. Children do not make their personality anything more than the table. When you tell a child a fairy tale or story, you speak only of what the child can comprehend of the external world. That is what must occur until the age of 9. After that, you can count upon children's ability to differentiate themselves from the world. At that time, we can begin to speak about plants and animals from the perspective of nature. I have put a lot of effort into studying the effects upon children of teaching about nature too early. Teaching about nature too early really does make children dry. So dry, in fact, that a well-trained observer can see in the changes of someone's skin that that person was taught about the concepts of nature at too early an age. Alright, so I'm just stepping away from the reading and just adding in my little punctuations on that. Yeah, so just really, do you know what I'm saying? Do you get what he's saying? It's not me, sorry, it's him. You get what he's saying? It's like, people think they're doing a service to humanity when they try to sit young children down, as in under 9-year-olds in this example, and say, what you got to know about the world is this, that, and they're all things that are sort of separate from what they are really connected to in their reality. And what we say here on Other World Connections, and of course, my work with The Secret Kindergarten, is really how to engage with children, or what's important for children and what's not, is you're kind of just sitting a child down and telling them that they're really dumb, and then that dries them up. It takes some of the life out of them. And it's really sad. So it's like, and it's also sad in the sense that parents that do that are making an effort, and they care about their kids. So it's really like this, not really a trick. I don't know what to call it, but it's just sad. I mean, sometimes kids that are neglected do better, or oftentimes they do better than kids that have parents that do this sort of thing to them. So yeah, stop sending me your children's books about Donald Trump, Dr. Fauci, anything, flat Earth. I don't care. It's not about. It's not about that I'm, you know, that I think flat Earth's a lie based on my lack of zero knowledge about the shape of the Earth at all. Anyway, it's about, you know, it's about doing things right for the kids. And I actually do know what to do right. Do I get it right all the time? No. But you don't. Sorry. I'm not speaking to you personally if you think that's wrong or you disagree. I'm not actually pointing to you. That just people send me links to books and say you should be reading this to kids. This is what they need to know, and it's not what they need to know. They need to know about Santa. That you need to make something up. You need to go fantasy land and go what blah blah blah. That's why fairy tales are so quote unquote important. They're nutrition for the soul. They contain the lessons that you want your kids to learn. But you can't just directly instruct children under 9 what they need to understand about things, because it's what you need to understand about things. Children are like a mirror like that. Bravo to you if you do actually go out of your way to spend time with your kids. It's tough. You got to work. You got to worry about, cooking dinner, food, shelter, and then paying all the, paying all the mafias to, protection money, all your taxes, everybody stealing everything from you, tax and rates and bills and blah, blah, blah. And then before you know it, you're like, well, I'm out of shape and I need to do exercise. And then if you're lucky, you can even find some time to go to the gym or do some exercise. And then there's the washing to do and the lawns to mow and the upkeep of the house and the property. And then there's the kids' extracurricular stuff. And you got to take them to do all that. And you got to try and find time for yourself. And then you still need to spend time with your kids. That should be number one. Your kids are happy being homeless, eating out of rubbish bins. 3-year-olds love eating out of rubbish bins. 2.5 to 3 years old, you should just, if you want kids to eat dinner, put the dinner in a rubbish bin. I'm telling you. People say, oh, my kid doesn't eat. Well, they should put the dinner in a rubbish bin across the road. I'm serious. I'm deadly serious. I'm qualified to say that. I am fully qualified to say that young children love eating out of rubbish bins. Trust me. So if you got worried about your kid not eating properly, put dinner in the rubbish bin and let them go and help themselves. They will, and they'll eat it. I want to make that a YouTube short. Yeah, so by my... so we got, missing comments here. So we didn't have a chimney, anyone, much less a large man could fit down. An early clue. Yeah, there we go. So that's actually, so Nick scored, said, we didn't have a chimney, much less a large man could fit down. So that's a really good point, based on what I was just saying, or what I was just reading of Rudolf Steiner. Between 7 to 9, that's when you actually start to go, oh, hey, like a fat person's not going to be able to go down the chimney. And obviously my uncle's not Santa. Oh, it was just, it was just a made up thing. And you figure it out. So I think that's a really good point. Eagle Flower says, sometimes Santa came through the door. Yeah. And I think a young child's logic could extrapolate that. I think in that space, I do think there's possibly a parent that's kind of meddling a little bit with that whole idea. Nick Scored said, I think that was the excuse my parents made up. I didn't buy it. LOL. Yeah, and another thing is like, it comes back to, we all needed parents. I'm just speaking for myself. This has just made me think of my parents. That's just triggered something in me. But we all need, as young children, we need adults that ask questions to us, and not like, have you eaten your veggies, or did you tidy up your blocks? Like, not patronizing questions, but questions that come from a place of curiosity. Yeah, like what's your favorite color, or I don't know, just questions that you think, I would really love to know what my son or my daughter thinks about this. And that's about flipping the switch, and that's bringing things into a space where awkward questions are less likely to come up. I would get awkward questions from kids that I hadn't really been engaging with when I was teaching. They're left to their own devices, maybe with the craft table and just ruminating on things, and be like, oh, hey, what's this really awkward thing I want to ask you? Yes, so distraction is kind of the key. But anyway, this is me really, it's very selfish, this show, to be honest. This is me just reflecting and getting my understanding of all the pedagogy and stuff that I learned when I was teaching, and reflecting on that, and just kind of pumping myself up that, I do know a thing or two about that. And I don't know. If you are listening, thanks for listening. I hope it's not too terrible, but it's kind of a reflective thing. I think it's good to think back to, I think it's good to go back to when you were a kid. You get answers there. I don't know if it's much more than that, but I think sometimes, pinning the tail on the donkey really helps with just moving forward on things. But yeah, so the Steiner stuff is pretty hard to unpack, but in other lectures, he's kind of set up until the age of 7. It's more about like fantasy and stuff like that, and he does talk about this opposite sort of thing. So someone that would have read what I just read about animism and stuff, being how it's sort of a falsity, well, I think he probably is an animist, but he's talking about in the sense of a young child. Everything's in the opposite. Like, if you think of, like, say, for example, color therapy. So, say, like, the color red is, like, invigorating and can also allegedly make people angry or that sort of thing. But it's like like blood and fire, right? And it has a impassionating, okay, that's a word, impassionating effect on people. But red for children, for young children, it's the opposite. It's like green, so it's kind of nauseating, and it can be fresh, and obviously to do with nature and stuff. But the point is that boys like blue, right? Our cultural norms of colours are boys in blue and girls are pink. Well, there was once upon a time when it was pink for boys. But blue is the colour that they put on in like the news and stuff, right? We all know this. It's not a conspiracy theory, it's a fact. People using colour magic on us to get us to believe stuff they're saying. Blue is a very yielding and accepting colour. Feeding someone a lie with the colour blue helps to make it digestible, and so on and so forth. Blue for boys, well, that transforms to pink. That's received as pink. So whatever the effects of pink are really what's happening to boys with their immersion in the colour blue. But one colour that's good for all young children is the colour green, which is, playing outside in the garden and in nature. That's part of why green is so good for kids, because they should be out in the garden playing and immersed in the colour green, because that is what transforms into the colour red once it's processed into the body. And red is the colour of blood and vigour and life, and green is like the lifeblood colour for young children, and it actually does help to develop their organs and blood flow. If you read Steiner's work in the early years, is crucial. So yeah, the trick is to be brave enough to let kids play outside, and it gets harder and harder to achieve that as each year and day, week goes by, with the degeneration of ethics and morals and behaviors of adults out there in the world. Yeah, so blah-de-blah-de-blah. What else was I going to say? So yeah, just really Santa. Santa's good in the sense that, it's a made-up thing of a man doing something really good. It comes from that Krampus god. I obviously don't know that much about it, right? But I'm just talking about the culture of it and the story of it and the quote-unquote lie of it, and whether that's acceptable or not for children. It's very much acceptable. Should you enforce it on children? No, but I'm just saying, like, fantastical, mythical things and fairy tales and stuff like that that's what early childhood's all about, up until about 9. That's pretty late. But it's not late. It's just how it is. So we're being told we're just retarded from day one. Literally, we are. Steiner thinks you shouldn't have to worry about reading, writing, and arithmetic until, if your young child's not interested in reading, writing, or arithmetic at age 14, then you want to start getting worried. And if you think about it, at about age 14 is when things start to get a bit more serious with reading, writing, and arithmetic, right? Adulthood is looming up. And then also, just anecdotally, I need to get a list of people, but, all these like genius type people, they were all retards when they were kids. They weren't retards, they somehow managed to fit in the flow of life in a holistically healthy way, which equals you're a retard in 2026. So everyone's rushing to university, trying to get to university as early as possible. It's just, it's not good. And Eagle Flower says, heck, out in the countryside, we had snow for sleighs too. Perfect for Santa's visits. Oh, that is so sweet. That is wonderful. Yeah. All right. I was kind of honored when they said, "You're Santa." That was true to them. I was like, man, I've got a big responsibility. It's probably the most honored I've ever felt in my entire life when my niece and nephew were convinced that I was Santa. It's a pretty big responsibility. Oh, I'm winding down and we're only a quarter of the way through the show. Okay, so, like it said in the title, Frozen. Let it go, turn away and slam the door. Here I Did you know, this is really messed up. This is unbelievable. That song is still on heavy rotation in daycares to this day, 2026. I don't know what you guys think about that, but for me, where I'm sitting, that is really, 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 that's crazy. I'm trying not to swear. It's a 2013 film. I'm just on Wikipedia here. I just want to say a thing or two about Frozen. We're just slowly as heck getting into this Frozen business. But just to start it off, I took the calling to write an article for Sarah Cross of Time Strider Radio on Revolution Radio. She publishes a magazine, and I took it upon myself to contribute an article, and my article was an Otherworld Connections style article, and it was about, sort of the esoteric, quote-unquote, meaning of Snow White. And yeah, so that's sort of something that's been yanking my crank in the last year, and I'm going to be doing some more of those when I find time. And writing is really hard, guys, especially when you're as illiterate as I am. Oh my goodness. And then you go to chat, you go to these AI things, and it just gets harder, because you don't want AI writing it for you. Absolutely not. And then you want it to help you with grammar. And before you know it, every 3 words you've got an M dash everywhere, and you're like, what the heck's an M dash? I had to Google what an M dash was. That's how bad my grammar is. But you know what? I'm learning a thing or two about editing and grammar, thanks to AI. I do not recommend it. If you know how to write and you're okay with that, do not use AI. It's, oh my God. But because it just tries to take over, and it just tries to write things for you. You're like, no, I don't even want to say that. What are you talking about? So you can use it, but it's not helpful in the way people claim it to be. It's not helpful at all. It's like, it's like having a... Okay, say you're really hungry, and there's a poo sandwich, and there's nothing else. Well, you're going to eat the poo sandwich, aren't you? You're going to have to, otherwise you're going to die. That's in the same way that AI is helpful. AI is dumb. AI is the dumbest thing that ever existed and I've ever experienced. AI is so dumb. But I'm just a little bit dumber. When it comes to certain things. Everybody's really dumb when it comes to certain things. You can't know everything. You can't know how to do everything. And so then AI comes along and goes, hey, you're really dumb, but I'm smarter than you for this thing. Not by much, but I am. And then it's like, thank you, AI, for helping me. AI is poos and wheeze on toast. Okay, speaking of poos sandwiches. AI is poos and wheeze on toast. You do not want to be in a position where you're like me and going, I better check with AI, how to paraphrase this, or how to look at how to rewrite this paragraph, because I can tell that this paragraph is terrible that I've wrote. And I just don't know how to rewrite it. And then AI goes and just workifies the whole thing. And you're like, oh my God. And then before you know it, you're editing somebody else's edit of your edit. And then before you know it, you've come full circle, and boom, you've got your own paragraph that you wrote yourself. Just because you've got no friends. So you have to have a robot as a friend. And having a robot as a friend is really crap. So yeah, don't be fooled. And also, like, one thing I do admit to is, this is a massive segue, I do admit to listening to some AI music, because I write songs myself. I'm wondering if I should just play some songs that I wrote for you guys. I was quite serious about it. I wrote a lot of songs. Some were quite good. Obviously, nothing came of it. So I'm curious about AI songwriting. I enjoy some of it, but it's obviously AI. It's obviously not human. And it's funny, like, I listen to I like offensive music. I like all kinds of music. But I listen to, obviously, trolling songs, right? Obviously offensive. And I enjoy listening to them because they're a good song with offensive lyrics that are very kind of middle of the road, but they're offensive, and then they're witty, that makes them witty somehow. And it's kind of like, the best way I can think of it is like, it's kind of like an extension of a meme. And memes are much more creative than AI music. But the point of the story is, even AI music, that's not going to be able to replace actual music. Never. But we will see, because people are so dumb, we are going to see, I honestly reckon we're going to see like concerts, AI concerts. I mean, AI is already getting together, right? There's that claw thing. Do you know about that? That's really not good. So it's not the learning language models or the actual AI thing that we experience like ChatGPT or Grok that we have to worry about. It's the, the next level up that we have to worry about that's pulling those strings. But we are going to see definitely AI concerts, that's for sure. It's just a train wreck we're just going to have to watch. We're just not going to be able to avoid watching. It's like everyone getting injected with experimental RNA, genetic, whatever the hex. We just all want to see what the train wreck is, as long as we're all doing it. So yeah, people are going to go to AI-produced concerts with AI songs. Definitely. They're not going to be better. They're not going to be better than like a human concert. It's just going to be something else, and it's going to be crapper. But we all just want to feel connected, and this links in. Man, I'm on a real rampage today with my blah blah blah. This is all connected to your sense of belonging. One of the needs of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You just need a sense of belonging. That's why we've all got to go and get the jabbies. That's why we're all going to go to see AI Michael Jackson tomorrow. Poor Michael Jackson, but yeah. So, and it's not, belonging is not necessarily a need. A sense of belonging, a desire for belonging in adult years, unfortunately, is a hangover that we just can't quite shake off from our neglect in our early years. Sorry, that's what happened to all of us. Naughty society and our naughty parents neglected us. And we have this need for belonging. We didn't quite individuate. Doesn't mean we should all live these solitary hermetic lives, studying Hermeticism. Just, going with the flow. AI is just a going with the flow thing. It's not necessary. It's not helpful. It's no good. Everyone jumping on that bandwagon is proving to be hugely unsuccessful. Unless you take your cameras and go into department stores and go around pranking people, and you can get like 1 million views on YouTube. That's probably quite fun if you're extroverted in that kind of way. But yeah, where was I? AI. Yeah, AI songs, they're interesting. I do listen to them sometimes, but they're not, when I experience an AI song, it's not at all in the same, it's not in the same space as a song performed and written by a person. It's just absolutely not. And yes, I'm still live. That's Julia asking me. She missed the beginning. Oh, well. Those are some moments of your life that you'll never get back. Segue to segue. Okay, Frozen. I forgot where I was going, but back to Frozen. 2013. It's still on heavy rotation in daycares. So how many generations of young people was that? Generation is not quite the word, but you get what I'm saying, right? 3 to 5 years old in a daycare. It's 13 years old. Let's call it 3. That's 4 rotations of young children. Frozen's here to stay. It's always been there. It feels like it's been there since 2000. It feels like it's been there since the beginning of time. And I believe that's got a little something to do with fairy tale symbolism and tapping into that. Disney was an absolute demon for getting a hold of, universally symbolic, deep, meaningful fairy tales and taking advantage of them to make money. Was it anything more than that? I don't think so. But over time we will figure that out. It is the 5th highest grossing film of all time. And I'm just looking for fun facts. Okay, there's none. But I do want to say the setting is the fictional kingdom of Arendelle. This is Frozen, which is based in Norway, and the film was influenced by Scandinavian culture, which is really, it was influenced by The Snow Queen, which is Hans Christian Andersen's book, which is influenced by Indo-European culture, right? Or Scandinavian, like Nordic, pagan mythology and culture. Yeah. Okay, so let's play a video. I've run out of blah blah blah. Oh, we got 7 minutes till the break, so I'll just keep blah blah blah. How do I get from that to AI? Well, first off, I do want to say is like I got more respect for these songwriters. This sounds really bad, but kind of hear me out. Like, so who wrote "Let It Go"? Oh my gosh. Look, Let It Go lawsuit. Chilean singer Jaime Ciero sued Demi Lovato, Idina Menzel, Walt Disney Animation Studios and others involved with the song Let It Go, accusing them of infringing on his 2008 song Voila. Oh my gosh, we're going to put that on right now. I think we're allowed to. Let's go. Voila. Voila. Lele Pons? No, it can't be. Voila means, I think, it's love, isn't it? Hang on. Come on, Gino. Keep the flow going. All right. What was the guy's name? Jaime Sierra. Come on. All right, here we go. Just a few seconds of it at least.
No controlaba casi nada en mí. Y era roommate la ansiedad. No le apuntaba nunca lo que iba a decir. Me levantaba a veces sin querer vivir. Y otras creyéndome Superman.
It is. Let it go. It's a nice song. So here's another thing that's interesting about AI music. It sounds like every other song in a way that it takes the soul out of it because it's like so knowing. it's so knowing that it's robotic and inhuman, the way in which it makes a song sound like 3 other songs at the same time. And this is Jamie Sierra. Let's see what happened to this guy. Others involved with the song, accusing them of infringing on his 2008 song. My point is, it could very well be just a coinky-dink, right? It's just a melody that sits right. It's kind of like that, that Fibonacci shape, like things just work out, right? A perfect song just seems to work and just hits the ears right, and everybody loves it forever. And then someone comes along and said, hey, I wrote that song. It's like, well, you might have had the same dream as me, you know what I mean? So it was ruled in court that songwriters Robert Lopez and Christian Andersen Lopez would be released from the lawsuit due to the 3-year statute of limitations for copyright claims. Sierra had been told he could amend his original complaint to address only infringements within the 3-year time frame, and he dropped the suit in May 2019. Also known as, he got defeated by big fat cat lawyers from America, and he was just some Chilean singer from a part of America no one cares about, let's face it. He probably couldn't even read or write. As if, man, that guy's talented as. I hope he gets a payout somehow. But he dropped the suit in May 2019. So that guy's been fighting it for like 6 years at least. Poor guy. Yeah. So there you go. Let It Go. Possibly written originally by Jamie Sierra. But what I was getting to is like, the songwriters, Robert Lopez and Christian Andersen Lopez, are they the writers of Let It Go? Like these top songwriters, it's like an AI song is never going to be able to do that. I can't believe I just said that, but don't know if you get my point. But, it's a big project. There's a human heart and soul that goes into these things. And now it's like gone are the days of saying these like top pop songwriters that really know how to write a song, that we get to just give them stick, because now we're up against AI. And now it's like, whoever wrote Let It Go, wow, what an amazing, talented human being with a brain and talent and so on and so forth, right? It used to be like, we hate this manufactured pop crap, punk rock all the way. And, I obviously still think that, but now that I started, since I spent a lot of time trying to write songs, I got more and more of respect for, God, even that guy from, Avril Lavigne's. I was thinking about Canadians. So we got Nick's Cord in the chat. Dude, Avril Lavigne. That was Avril Lavigne's husband, I think, is also Canadian. I don't know if they're still married. What was that band that everyone hates? It's not Everclear. Everclear actually weren't too bad. Oh, anyway. That guy writes a lot of songs that are number ones. That guy writes a heck of a lot of songs. These people are, really, really talented. So, anyway, Let It Go, from where I'm sitting, before we get into all this exploring, it has a staying power because it's tapping into basically Nordic mythology, Indo-European roots of our ancestors in a spiritual sense, an archetypal sense, a mythical sense, and it's tapping into something of that. And even though it's bastardized, which we'll probably find out, because that's where the conspiracy theories come in, why would they incorporate certain themes into these stories instead of kind of keeping an original fairy tale original? I want to explore that more. because people like conspiracy theories, and I don't know, it's good to find out. They end up getting debunked most of the time, sorry to say. It's very normy of me, but yeah, there we go. So, hey, you're listening to Revolution Radio. This is Otherworld Connections. Stick around. We'll see you on the other side of the ad break for looking into Frozen and the Snow Queen. Thank you. Está bene cambiare con quito salito chanchito. Here I am.
Porque junto a ti puedo volar.
Let it go con quito. Turn around and slam the tacos. Just kidding, everybody. Oh my gosh, poor Jamisiero. Voila, they stole his song. They stole his song. And even if they didn't, fair play to him for jumping on that bandwagon, because, I mean, what we know is that that's what Disney does, right? They go, oh look, here's this archetypal theme. Let's take it, exploit it, and make as much money out of it as possible. So I'm going to recommend, I might even learn some of this guy's songs. Jamisiero. Ay, 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 he's a handsome dude. He's got a great voice. Poor bugger. 206 subscribers. I'll catch up to him one day. Oh, man. You are tuned in to Other World Connections on Revolution Radio. It's, the internet's #1 listener-supported radio station on the internet. So please consider helping to support our efforts and airtime by visiting our station's donation section on our website, freedomslips.net. Check out that website, eh? Fresh, clean, new, modern, futuristic, cutting edge. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah, so it's cutting edge, and, check it out. Mr. Rowe did it. Mr. Rowe, he the man. If you have any tech, you need any tech help, like me, I'm trying to untangle this thing on my headphones. Check him out. He's going to hook you up. Yeah. He's going to, don't know what his prices are, but I don't think he's going to be a rip-off. That's what I'm saying. I'm all tangled up here. I don't know how I did that. Just got to be in my bonnet about that. Alright, so Snow Queen / Frozen. It's not really. Frozen is quite a lot different to the Snow Queen. But we're going to figure that out, and we're going to see if there's enough of a similarity to really to say that it was taken from the Snow Queen. Because sometimes things are taken from places and then they're not really. Yeah. Okay, so there's something else I was going to say, but I forgot. So now it's just finding out stuff about that. Okay, so this is the messed up origins of Frozen, brackets, the Snow Queen, Disney explains. So the title is good. Okay, that's all I've got on it. This is some guy called John Solo. Don't know him. Who's that guy? 1.82 million subscribers. I'm extremely envious. No, I'm not. Listen, this is exploration. I don't know what this is going to be about, but we're going to check it out and we're going to figure this. Snow Queen, Hans Christian Andersen, based on his knowledge of, our roots, really, our Nordic roots, our Norse mythological roots as white people. And yeah, Frozen. Okay, so pressing play.
What is going on, Solo fam? My name is John Solo, and welcome to the first Messed Up Origin episode of 2019. Today is January 11th, and unfortunately for some of you, that means that this winter season is just getting started. So with that in mind, I figured there's no better time for us to talk about Disney's Frozen, or the story that inspired it, the Snow Queen. This story, written by Hans Christian Andersen and published in his book of fairy tales in 1845, details the adventures of a little girl named Gerda when she sets out to rescue her friend Kai from the clutches of the Snow Snow Queen. I gotta admit, I knew basically nothing about this story going into it. I knew that it was the inspiration for Frozen, I knew the Snow Queen was an evil character, and that's about it. So imagine my surprise when I found out this fairy tale was 7 chapters long and concerned itself with angels, demons, and even the devil himself. I say it's time we get started. First, we're gonna do a very short recap of Frozen to jog your memory, and then we'll break down the Snow Queen. Smash that like button and hit that subscribe button. It's time to dive in. Frozen tells the story of Princess Elsa of Arendelle, who has magic that allows her to create and control ice and snow. She used to use this magic to play with her sister Anna, but when she accidentally hits her in the dome, her parents take her to some magic trolls to have her memory of Elsa's powers erased. Elsa spends the next several years in solitude, trying to control her powers and completely ignoring Anna even during the hardest of times. Fast forward to Coronation Day when Princess Elsa is supposed to become queen. At the post-ceremony bash, she gets into an argument with Anna over her wanting to marry Prince Hans of the Southern Isles and accidentally reveals her ice powers to all of Arendelle. Elsa runs away out of fear of being branded a monster by her people, and Anna ventures out to find her and end the eternal winter that she caused. With some help from an ice harvester named Kristoff, his reindeer Sven, and a talking snowman named Olaf, Anna finds Elsa hiding out in an ice castle in the mountains. When Elsa learns that she froze Arendelle, she panics, saying she can't undo it, and accidentally freezes Anna's heart. While Anna's being transported to Arendelle to receive the kiss of true love from Hans and melt the ice in her heart, Hans is out with some soldiers to capture Elsa and bring her home. Sometime later, Elsa wakes up imprisoned, and Hans reveals to Anna that he doesn't actually love her. He's just trying to usurp the Arendelle throne. He leaves Anna to die of her frozen heart, but Olaf rescues her and takes her outside to find Kristoff, who he's just revealed is in love with her. Meanwhile, Elsa's broken out of prison and is being hunted down by Hans, who she still believes is on her side. Hans tells Elsa that she killed Anna, making her lose all hope and collapse to the ground, and just before he delivers the killing blow, Anna comes out of left field to intercept it with her new ice body. This act of true love ends up being the cure that Anna's frozen heart needed, as well as the key to controlling Elsa's powers. Anna's body thaws out, she punches Hans in the face, summer returns to Arendelle, and they live happily ever after. Many people consider Frozen to be one of Disney's greatest and most progressive movies of the past decade, but did you know that it wasn't the studio's first attempt at putting the Snow Queen story on film? Under the orders of Walt Disney himself, in the 1930s, animator Mark Davis went to Scandinavia to look for more stories for the studio to sink their teeth into, and he stumbled upon the tales of Hans Christian Andersen. By 1939, Walt had given their next film the title of The Snow Queen and a production number. The movie was planned to be a biopic on Hans Christian Andersen's life, with animated sequences scattered throughout. However, for reasons still unknown to this day, the project was dropped, and no creative work for it has ever been found in the Disney archives. In fact, the only HCA story that was produced around that time and for years after was The Ugly Duckling, which was made for the Silly Symphony series. Andersen's the
I believe Hans Christian Andersen is pretty, based, as the kids call it these days, so that might have something to do with it. And there might have been disapproval around this little excursion to try and, pilfer this kind of, information.
The Little Mermaid was also being adapted into an animated feature in the 40s, but that too got left on a shelf for 40 years until John Musker and Ron Clements came along. While Frozen's story was a much more simplified version of Hans Christian Andersen's with quite a bit more humor mixed in, there's a multitude of connections you can make between characters and events. I'll be breaking down everything that I can find, but as usual, don't be afraid to comment down below with anything I might have missed. So the first chapter, or what HCA refers to as the first story, has one of the most interesting premises I've ever read in a fiction book. I realize that's a bold claim, but when you hear it, I'm sure you'll agree. It opens by introducing us to a troll, but not just any troll, the most evil one of all, the devil himself. One day, the devil decides to make a magic mirror, where the reflection of anything that's good and beautiful in this world will shrink to nothing, and all that's bad and evil will grow. When reflected in the mirrors, gorgeous rolling hills look like spinach, and and people's reflections were so distorted they hardly recognized themselves. The devil was a headmaster for a troll school, and his students said the mirror was a miracle because now mankind could see the world as it was truly meant to be seen. They traveled around the earth showing the mirror to everyone they could, but after a while, humans weren't a good enough target. They decided to carry the mirror to the heavens to show the angels and even God, but as they carried it upward, the mirror would get heavier and heavier, and to make it weirder, it'd even shake with laughter. Just before they reached the heavens, the mirror slipped from their fingers and plummeted all the way down to earth, where it shattered into millions and billions of pieces. You might think that was a good thing because now the mirror was destroyed, but believe it or not, this caused even more trouble than it ever had before. Those billions of fragments were carried around the world by the wind and sea, and each tiny piece carried the properties of the entire mirror. If a piece landed in someone's eye, it would change the way they saw the world forever, and if it landed in their heart, it would turn to ice. You can already see where Disney got the idea for differentiating between hits to the head and heart. In the beginning, Anna's hit in the head, and thanks to the troll's magic, her view of the world changes forever, and later on, she's hit in the heart and turns entirely to ice. While some of the mirror's fragments were pretty large and used for things like glasses and window panes, there were still billions of microscopic fragments flying around. The following 6 chapters show what happens when they infiltrate even the most pure of human beings: children. The rest of the story follows a little boy and girl named Kai and Gerda. Their families live very close to each other to the point where their houses are basically touching, and they think of each other as relatives. During the spring, summer, and fall, the families would have their flower boxes positioned so they connected from house to house instead of parallel on the windowsills. And Kai and Gerda would sit on the makeshift walkway right under the rose trees that grew in each box. Kai's grandma loved telling the children stories, and one night she tells them about the swarming white bees outside and their queen. She always flies right in the center of the swarm, where the most snowflakes are. She is the biggest of them all, but she never lies down to rest as the other snowflakes do. No, when the wind dies, she returns to the black clouds. Many a winter night, she flies through the streets of the town and looks in through the windows, then they become covered by ice flowers. Later that night, when Kai's getting ready for bed, he looks out the window through the peephole he melted in the ice. The snowflakes that were falling in front of him began piling on top of each other until they grew into the shape of a woman. She was beautiful, but made entirely of ice, and when Kai looked into her eyes, he saw no peace or rest in her stare. The next morning began with some frost, but by noon the weather had changed and melted it all away. One day, while Kai and Gerda were reading under the rose bushes, he cried out that something had pricked his heart and something sharp was in his eye. I wonder what that could have been. The pain disappeared pretty quickly, but Gerda was left crying out of sympathy for her friend when he turned to her and demanded to know why she was crying. He said that she looked ugly when she cried and that he was fine, so she should stop. As you can tell, Kai's view of the world is already being affected by the devil's shards. He just called his best friend ugly, then he proceeds to insult the garden around them and kick their flower boxes. His behavior became worse and worse throughout the year. He appeared to grow up very quickly, became very standoffish, and continued to make fun of poor Gerda. The following winter, he went to the town square to hang out with the other boys who were tying their sleds to the farmers' wagons that were passing nearby. While they were hunting for joyrides to go on, a big white sleigh passed through town and Kai tied his sled to it. He noticed it was accelerating, but whenever he went to untie his sled, the driver, who was all dressed in white, would turn around and give him such a kind smile he would leave it alone. When they went past the city gates, he actually did untie his sled, but it just kept following the sleigh as if it were being pulled by magic. I can't decide if that would be amazing or terrifying. Eventually they did stop, and the driver, who Kai now realizes is the Snow Queen, tells him to hop in the sled and get warm under her coat. She then gives him a kiss on the forehead that's as cold as ice, and for a second Kai felt like he was going to die, but that feeling, as well as the cold, faded quickly and was replaced with power. When she kissed him a second time, he forgot all about Gerda and his family, and the Snow Queen no longer appeared to be made of ice, but instead was just a beautiful human. She told Kai she wouldn't kiss him a third time or he might die. Then they flew her sleigh into the air just over a raging snowstorm below, and Kai fell asleep at her feet. Out of curiosity, did that scene remind anyone else of when Edmund meets the White Witch in that, ladies and gentlemen?
Oh my god, I can't do this anymore. Why has he got dance music? And he's not taking a breath. Okay, so we're just going to the analysis here. I just want to see if what he
It was
says.
Hans Christian Andersen's The Snow Queen and the inspiration for Disney's Frozen. After reading the story for the first time, I was actually kind of surprised at how little the Snow Queen character had to do with anything. She was basically just a secondary catalyst. The first was the enchanted mirror falling and breaking, which set the story's events in motion, but her kidnapping Kai is what started Gerda's adventure. It's no wonder Disney chose to change her from an antagonist to a protagonist. As a villain, she felt sorta generic, and despite them writing several versions of the story where she was evil all the way through, the writers thought the idea of showing how someone like Elsa could live with these powers would be more interesting.
Yeah, okay, so turning the antagonist into the protagonist. Now, going back to what we were reading about Steiner and what I was talking about, how the colors, how they work in verse. So everything's kind of upside down. The subconscious is the conscious, and the conscious is the subconscious. It becomes subconscious. Everything's upside down, topsy-turvy. That, I do believe, is... I don't know if it's the PSYOP, registered trademark. That, there's a cigar-smoking reptilian in the head office, showing up at the head office at Disney saying, now this is what we're going to do. Because they know that if you turn the antagonist into the protagonist, that's like got a really, But I do think that, like if people know stuff, like say if I know, or then other people can know too, right? And I'm sure for me, just from where I'm sitting, probably someone very high up the chain in these corporations that make decisions on things and get producers and stuff, like they know about this stuff. And then when you're talking about film and production, these people know a heck of a lot about mythology, archetypes, symbolism. Like that's, film is kind of, people working with film, they're working with symbol at the most advanced level, in terms of for human consumption, right? Human to human symbolic communication. So it is already kind of a type of wizardry anyway, right? But what I'm trying to say here is, the reason I press pause is they sort of, in this, they're saying like the Snow Queen kind of wasn't really a thing. And what we've been going through in Otherworld Connections, how these aspects of the stories are really the key to the message of them, right? And a Snow Queen, it could be, we haven't really looked into this properly yet, but, it could be this dragon mother type thing. The evil, the unholy feminine archetype getting a free pass once again. And the education of these dynamics for young children is encoded, in my opinion, and in my experience, and from our research that we've done here on the show, and through my anecdotal experience working with young children in fairy tales, is the teaching of those issues in life, those dynamics in life, dealing with bad things, evil behaviors, evil people, those teachings and solutions, I say, or how to manage those things as just a person being born into this world, doesn't know Arthur from Martha. That was probably a bad analogy, but the fairy tales provide nutrition in that space. So later in life, if you do deal with it, you have the energy and the nutrients to, to do something about it, to take action, coming from a place of common sense, coming from a heart and soul-based place of, that's not going to happen, I'm not putting up with that, that's obviously wrong type thing. So at this point in time, the quote-unquote PSYOP here is most likely just a kind of, neo-feminist type thing where it's like, oh no, we're not going to put the girl to be bad. We're not going to put a bad girl, a bad lady. We're just going to make it as women are good, right? We're just going to white knight. We're going to white knight the Snow Queen and do Frozen like that. And that's my working theory as of, 10 minutes into figuring this out. So let's keep going.
Interesting. They modernized the original theme of love conquers negativity to love conquers fear, and what came out of that was a pretty good story. Interestingly, it wasn't Disney's only attempt at adapting the Snow Queen fairy tale. Her character is also the antagonist in season 4 of the TV show Once Upon a Time. They tie various elements of the story into the plot too. For example, Elsa's mom is named Gerda and revealed to be the Snow Queen's sister. And when the Snow Queen comes to Storybrooke, she tries using the magic mirror and the spell of shattered sight to try and brainwash the town's residents into hating and ultimately destroying each other. But now I want to hear what you guys thought of the Snow Queen. Did you like the plot? Did you pick up on any connections that I didn't? Let me know in the comments down below. Also, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you smash that like button with all your heart. If your heart...
Yeah, pretty sloppy, dude. But hey, this is the journey. Okay. Oh, this looks really good. Fairy Tale Theatre. I think I'm going to have to do a, dare I say, I'm going to break my rules and we'll do Secret Kindergarten Video Edition. I need the points on Odyssey. I don't want to do this on YouTube for copyright and all sorts of things like that, but I want to do this on Odyssey. If anyone is out there listening and knows about Odyssey, tell me what I got to do. I don't get all the points and stuff on Odyssey. I upload. Is there a way around that? I want to go live on Odyssey. I don't want to be using YouTube. Yeah, help me out. I might put that in the host chat if anyone can help me out with that. But yeah, I would like to do children's entertainment by sourcing programming, quote unquote, from the internet and playing it and also reading stories. And I don't want to be dealing with copyright and kids content on YouTube is probably the most highly contested space. And a lot of YouTube's resources are shutting down people reading books for kids because of all the copyright that goes on with that. Did you know that? That's interesting. I don't want to go into that space and compete. I don't want to be a slave for YouTube, a slave employee of YouTube. That is similar to getting AI to write a song for me. Which, hey, that may happen one day, but anyway. I want to go on Odyssey. Anyone knows how to help me with that, that'd be great. Right. So now I'm looking for... I've got to make a note of that. I'm just saving that. I know this is just super selfish. Save to watch later. Putting that there. There we go. Okay, Frozen. Occult. Exposed. Frozen. Hidden occultism. Incredible Bible revelations. Okay, well, let's just do this because this is going to be a... Oh, that's an hour and 38. Paranoid American. The Dark History of Frozen. Okay, I think this is gonna highlight another point that I want to make. So we're going to play this. Just credit where credit's due. This is The Spooky Lawyer, The Dark History of Disney's Frozen.
Let it go. Let it go. And I can't tell you how many times I've been told that. Disney's Frozen is nothing less than a global phenomenon. And it has captivated audiences with what appears to be a heartwarming and uplifting story. However, the story it's based on, Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tale The Snow Queen, and its tumultuous development history its reception and some fan theories reveal that it's a lot darker than you might think. Let's look at the disturbing history of Frozen and explore the darker
Yeah, so already this is where the psyop becomes the psyop. Where I'm not giving this guy a chance, but it's what the other person was kind of inferring, and it's what a lot of these YouTube de-occulting fairy tale type people do, is that they're saying that they're inferring, I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is what's happening, because this is what the other guy was inferring, that the place in which the story came from was inappropriate, and they've hidden it by removing some of the inappropriate things, and somehow that inappropriateness is kind of still in there to get into your child's mind, to corrupt your mind. And this is where the psyop's a psyop in the sense that, yeah, edits have been made, but for the reverse reason. The dark stuff that was in the fairy tale is the good stuff for kids. Now, obviously, this is not just some blanket statement so that like now everyone should just be inappropriate to kids and that's really good for kids. That's not what we're saying. Because we're in the realm of fairy tale, we're in the realm of reading stories, and it's part of the playscape of young children, you know, imaginary, okay? So it's in that realm, okay? So this is another thing that people want to conflate, like bad is good for kids in terms of stories, therefore, well, why aren't we just treating kids badly if that's what's good for them, bad stuff? That's not, that's just, I got no time to talk to people like that. I don't get that logic. We're talking about reading stories, right? We're talking about imagination and creativity and drama, theater, play, acting, fantasy. We're talking about that. It's entertainment. It's entertaining. It's fun. It's playful. It's where the learning happens. So the psyop is the psyop in the sense that what I'm starting to pick up on is all these people talk about the dark origins of these stories when really it's just the origin of the story, and we should actually be going to the origin of the story and just going with the original story. That's what we should be doing. It's the manipulation of the story that's, you know, not ideal. And although we are learning that manipulating the story might not be enough because the stories are so powerful in and of themselves, that it almost becomes that the de-occultists become the psyop because they're telling you that Frozen's bad because there's something even worse behind it, when actually Frozen's bad because they've adulterated the thing that's really good behind it. Does that make sense?
aspects of the original tale and the Disney film that so many people have come to love. Let's get spooky. Hey, spooky people, it's your best friend Kenny. And before we get into another spooky, disturbing story, let's make sure that you are subscribed to this channel, The Spooky Lawyer. Make sure that you like and share this video. Share this video by...
I've been interrupting so much, I'm just going to interrupt because Sergeant Miller entered the chat. Interesting topic, Gino. Just like the Wizard of Oz. Excellent point. It is like that. There's other stuff going on with the Wizard of Oz. I do want to try and get into that one day. Thank you so much, Sergeant Miller, for your comment. Yeah, it is interesting. You know, got a bit to go with my delivery of the topic, but thank you for tuning in, Sergeant Miller.
I just start putting on my videos anywhere you see a screen. Just, you know, you see a TV, put on
Sergeant Miller from First Formation on Revolution Radio. Check out his show.
YouTube, put my videos on, work, the gym, stores, who cares? Just put them on. It'll go great. I'd appreciate it. Disney's Frozen is inspired by Hans Christian Andersen's 1844 fairy tale, The Snow Queen. The movie borrows core elements from the original story, such as a snow queen and a journey to rescue a loved one from her icy clutches, but it deviates significantly for good reason. In Andersen's original story, The story begins with a wicked troll who creates a magic mirror that distorts beauty and magnifies ugliness. I feel like we've all known some wicked trolls who magnify ugliness, am I right? When the mirror shatters, fragments lodge in people's hearts and eyes, turning them cold and causing them to only see the negative aspects of the world. And I bet that hurt a lot too. One shard of this glass enters the heart and eye of a young boy named Kai, who becomes cruel and distant to his best friend Gerda. The Snow Queen, who is a powerful and enigmatic figure, then kidnaps Kai and takes him to her icy palace in the far north. Disney's Frozen reimagines Kai and Gerda as sisters. Elsa is born with the power to control ice and snow, a secret that her parents keep hidden from Anna after a childhood accident. The Snow Queen is essentially embodied by Elsa herself, who flees her kingdom after her powers are revealed, inadvertently plunging it into an eternal winter. Anna embarks on a journey to find Elsa and convince her to return and thaw the kingdom. Thaw and the king. Gerda's journey in the Snow Queen is episodic. It's filled with encounters with various characters, including a sorceress, a prince and a princess, and a little robber girl, each of whom offer a different path, but ultimately cannot deter her from her quest to find Kai. The journey is long and takes Gerda through different seasons, highlighting her perseverance and unwavering love for Kai. Anna's journey in Frozen is more linear, with her teaming up with Kristoff, an ice harvester, his reindeer Sven, and the snowman Olaf. They face perilous weather conditions and encounter mystic trolls, all in their effort to reach Elsa's ice palace. The central theme in Andersen's The Snow Queen is a struggle between good and evil, with Gerda's purity and innocence ultimately melting the ice in Kai's heart, and also dislodging the mirror fragments. Love can melt the coldest ice and the most mortal and deadly wounds. The tale also explores themes of loyalty, friendship, and the power of love to overcome adversity. The ending sees Gerda and Kai returning home, having grown up but retaining their childlike hearts. And I hope all of you retain your childlike hearts. This is very important. Frozen shifts the focus to the bond between sisters, emphasizing themes of self-acceptance, the power of love, particularly familial love, and overcoming fear. The film subverts the traditional fairy tale trope of romantic love being the only true love, with Anna's selfless act of love for Elsa ultimately saving her. Frozen is considered a family-friendly movie. The Snow Queen is darker and more unsettling. The origin of the Snow Queen and her motives for taking Kai are never fully explained, which sort of add an air of mystery and menace. The story also makes references to death and loss, such as tales of dead maidens told by the flowers in the sorceress's garden. The character of the little robber girl is depicted as violent and problematic, holding a reindeer captive at knife point. The overall tone of the fairy tale is arguably more philosophical and at times melancholic compared to the upbeat nature of Frozen. Adapting the Snow Queen into a Disney film was a decades-long endeavor that had significant challenges and many abandoned attempts. Walt Disney himself considered a live-action animation hybrid based on Han Christian Andersen's life in the 1930s, with the Snow Queen as one of the animated segments. But the project was shelved due to difficulties in adapting the story and the onset of World War II. Sort of fascinating to think of all of the things that various wars that we've been in, all of the art that was shelved for various wars that we've been in. The Frozen project was revisited during the Disney Renaissance in the 1990s, but this attempt also failed. And there's not much information available about this direction. In the early 2000s, Disney CEO Michael Eisner approached Pixar to take on the adaptation, but this collaboration never happened. The development began in earnest in 2008 when John Lasseter convinced Chris Buck to return to Walt Disney Animation Studios. Buck pitched several ideas, including the Snow Queen, with the initial concept being titled Anna and the Snow Queen, and planned for traditional 2D animation. However, the story still had trouble finding its footing, particularly in portraying the Snow Queen in a relatable and non-villainous way. Personally, I prefer my Snow Queen to be villainous, but I'm also not in charge of Disney. So, a major turning point occurred with the writing of the song Let It Go by Kristen Anderson Lopez and Robert Lopez. The song's portrayal of Elsa's desire for freedom inspired the significant rewrite of the story, shifting the focus to the relationship between the two sisters and portraying Elsa as a more sympathetic character rather than a traditional villain. The decision to make Elsa and Anna sisters became the emotional core of the film, providing a way for audiences to connect with the characters and their struggles. Jennifer Lee, who had previously worked on Wreck-It Ralph, joined the team as a writer and later a co-director. and played a crucial role in restructuring the script and developing the emotional depth of the story. The filmmaker faced challenges in balancing the tension between sisters while ensuring both remained likable. The ending of the film also proved difficult to finalize, requiring further creative problem solving to arrive at an emotionally resonant conclusion. So they basically realized, hey, we like this idea from the original story, but we have to change everything about it because the original story is too weird and sad and disturbing and it won't become a huge hit. And we
Yeah, so they just were like, well, we can't have that stuff. And so they actually just wrote it as they went along by just using the apophatic principle, just we're not going to do that, so we just got to have to figure something out. Which is crazy if you think about it, right? And that's how powerful the themes are. They just had to try and build a wall around the core themes of the original story in The Snow Queen. And in The Snow Queen, the theme of good overcoming evil, well, I mean, how else are you going to teach, right versus wrong and, the struggle to do good and the striving to do good in your life? How are you going to teach that if not through fairy tales for kids? And they've just, Frozen is obviously, is now proven to be, it's, like a lot of these fairy tales, it's just an effort to build a wall around these ideas. And I'm not saying it's necessarily, again, the reptilian and the, business suit smoking a cigar, what have you. I don't know why I keep saying that, but you get what I mean, right? I'm just saying, like, people just think, oh, we're not going to have that. That's a bit dark. Just because I think, well, probably that's not good for kids because there's a protective response inside of us that says, well, obviously we don't want kids coming to harm, so anything associated with harm or bad or evil, we just got to erase it because that's what we want to have erased in reality. And it doesn't work like that, but there is that sort of response that people have. So it could be innocent, but then it's supported, right? Someone higher up could really understand this idea. And we're being poisoned with, like, obviously ideology, right? In media and stuff. So, people that do this are going to be supported. Somewhere higher up, someone is saying, yes, that's exactly the kind of thought process that we want on the team. And most people are like that anyway.
won't make a bunch of money. Despite the arduous development process, the final film of Frozen retained its core idea of an act of true love will thaw a frozen heart. But it changed to true love from romantic love to the bond between sisters. Frozen premiered in November 2013, and it was met with widespread critical acclaim and immense popularity with audiences. Critics praised the film's visuals, well-developed characters, engaging screenplay, and its memorable music score. Many considered it a return to form for Walt Disney Animation Studios, and one of their best animated features in decades. The film's soundtrack, featuring songs like Let It Go and Do You Want to Build a Snowman, and For the First Time in Forever, became a cultural phenomenon, topping music charts and earning numerous accolades, including an Academy Award for Best Original Song. Let It Go in particular resonated with audiences worldwide as an anthem of self-acceptance and empowerment. Frozen achieved incredible box office success, grossing over $1.28 billion worldwide and becoming the highest grossing animated film at the time of its release. And its popularity extended beyond the cinematic realm, leading to the highly successful franchise that included short films, television specials, video games, merchandise, and even a Broadway musical. The characters of Elsa and Anna became beloved figures, particularly for young audiences, and the film's themes of sisterhood and female empowerment were widely celebrated. The immense popularity of Frozen has led to a plethora of fan theories beneath the ice. See what I did there? Which explore darker and interpretations of the film's events. One theory suggests a connection between Frozen and other Disney films, specifically Tarzan. The theory posits that Anna and Elsa's parents did not die in the shipwreck, but were instead washed ashore on a jungle island where they had a son, Tarzan, before being eventually killed by a leopard. Another theory revolves around the origin of Elsa's powers. Some speculate that her parents were not entirely forthcoming about the source of her magic, and may have even built the prison cell and special shackles seen in the film specifically for her, fearing her powers. Another theory is that Olaf is not merely a joyful snowman, but a manifestation of Elsa's repressed fears and darker emotions, created unconsciously during a moment of intense emotional turmoil. Some theories delve into the possibility of hidden powers and secrets surrounding other characters. For instance, there is speculation that Anna might possess fire-based powers to complement Elsa's ice, hinted at by her red hair. Another theory suggests that Prince Hans was not entirely the villain he appeared to be, and might have been under the influence of a spell, or genuinely had feelings for Anna. And, of course, an incredible theory suggests that the title Frozen was deliberately chosen to overshadow search results on the internet related to the urban legend of Walt Disney being cryogenically frozen after his death. Of course, it's impossible to talk about Frozen and Elsa without talking about Elsagate. The term Elsagate originated in 2017, stemming from the popularity of videos featuring characters from Disney's Frozen, particularly Elsa. These videos appeared child-friendly at first glance, but they usually had disturbing or inappropriate content. One of the earliest examples of Elsagate was the channel Webs and Tiaras, which featured people dressed as popular characters like Spider-Man, Elsa, and the Joker, engaging in bizarre and disturbing activities. These Elsagate channels sparked concern among parents and experts about the potential negative impact on children. Elsagate videos would employ deceptive tactics to attract young viewers. They used these popular children's characters, usually Elsa. Elsa was in almost all of them. Bright colors and catchy music to lure children into watching content that was not age appropriate, and in fact, in most cases, not appropriate for anybody. Some of the common themes in these videos included violence and gore. The characters were depicted to be injured, tortured, or killed in graphic ways. And it could include scenes of mutilation, injections with unknown substances, and other forms of physical harm. The videos also contained suggestive and often highly sexual themes, including touching, nudity, and sexual innuendo. The characters were placed in sexually suggestive situations, engaging in acts that were inappropriate for children. And many of the videos featured nonsensical storylines, disturbing imagery, characters behaving in ways that are out of character or unsettling. This would include bizarre rituals, nonsensical dialogue, and disturbing transformations. The videos would often include elements of horror, jump scares, and disturbing situations that could traumatize young children. Characters being chased by monsters, encountering frightening creatures, or being placed in situations that evoke fear and anxiety. Elsagate became such a problem that YouTube had to take steps to address the issue of Elsagate and disturbing children's content, including increasing the human moderation team. YouTube expanded its team of human reviewers to help identify and remove the inappropriate videos. It improved its algorithms to better identify and filter out disturbing content. That included refining the algorithm to understand the context of these videos and identify the deceptive tactics used by the creators and the harmful content. And YouTube collaborated with child safety experts and organizations to develop better policies and strategies for protecting children. YouTube implemented age verification measures to restrict access to age-inappropriate content. This was to help prevent children from accessing content that was not suitable for their age group. It's sort of fascinating that Frozen, which I think everyone considers an extremely uplifting film, started from a pretty disturbing source material and has become darker, and I think it adds some interesting aspects to the film's text and subtext. Make sure that you are subscribed to this channel.
Yeah, so there you go. Again, this is the second video, The Dark History of Frozen. And they didn't really say anything about the history of Frozen. They just said, oh, it was from the story that was a bit dark. And they didn't actually really go into the... Okay, the other one, he did. He did go into it. But they're not pointing out what is dark about it. And why it's dark. And I think that's the issue. There are just things that we perceive as, something gloomy in a story, therefore it's not appropriate for kids. Who's writing the stories and who are they writing them for? We go all the way back, like if we use the trivium, like to get the information, like who's doing it? An author. And what's it about? Well, it's a fairy tale. And who's it for? It's for kids. Okay? So you're already in a particular aisle of the bookstore, right? And then just Joe Schmo comes along and goes, that's inappropriate, that's inappropriate, that's inappropriate, that's inappropriate, that's dark, that's gloomy, that's dark, that's dark, that's dark, that's gloomy, that's dark, that's dark. I mean, why? Who said it? Who said it's dark? Why is it dark? What part of the story is dark and why? And if it's dark, what's wrong with a percentage of light or a lack of light? Like, let's talk about it. You know what I mean? I just think people are more black and white in their thinking of these things than they actually know. And ironically, it's that kind of thinking that is really the progressive thinking, which claims not to be black and white. Yeah, so dark origins of stories, when really it is, it's really Disney going for universal and original and old stories that tap into parts of us that are deep within us, that are encoded into really our DNA, coming from myth and story. And they're trying to, use that at a base level to just make lots of money. To use those stories for entertainment, because you can't reinvent the wheel. The wheel's got to keep turning, so they want to find stories that link to myth and then use them to their advantage. And if they can put their little agendas in at the same time, well, sure, go for it. And what I want to get to the bottom of is, how much of that is really actually having an effect. Well, does the horse come before the cart or the chicken before the egg, in the sense that if this is what people are thinking, then a story like Frozen is really reinforcing that for the adults, not the children. And when we get into, and what I mean is like the ideology, right? The feminist ideology, the unholy feminine ideology that's out there. There's in Frozen, there's that sort of theme of power and control, and it's the women with the power and the control, and the Snow Queen is really removed partially because women aren't bad or can't be evil. There's that sort of theme. And there's, the white knight thing. That, girls can't do wrong. Daddy's little princess, that sort of thing. But the thing that, it's a little bit like I'm picking on, I've got some problem with women or something. Maybe I do, but I'm just talking about Frozen. And then I know we did Snow White, which is similar, right? But what this is breeding, really, is, bringing it back to men, is, this, the true toxic masculinity where, everyone's got to be an alpha male and a Chad, and there's no right and wrong there. Man on man, it's, there is no cause and effect. Everything's just UFC. Everything's just perpetual drama and fighting. And, this moral degradation, like people talk about these, like, Tate brothers and these, masculine, hyper-masculine people on the internet that, that allegedly, like, young men are all looking up to and stuff these days. Well, it's a pushback from, being kind of demasculinized. And I'd say that Frozen is a demasculinizing, in a way, movie. Well, it's trying to make a point, right? It's trying to empower women, women as the, we can't have women as the antagonist. They've got to be the protagonist. But it's distorting the, inherent law of masculine and feminine in nature. But again, I think this is all really just enforcing these ideas onto the adults more than the children. If we look at Joseph Chilton Pearce's work, who wrote about 5 or 6 books on the television and the screen, and how damaging it is, it's all bad news. It's really bad news, and no one wants a party pooper here, a party pooper going on about that. Parents need to have a break, right? They need time out as much as the kids do, and TV does provide that. And I'm not saying that's good. It's actually really, really bad, but, you know, it's good to have a break. You do need to have time out. If there are other ways to do it, then, you know, please do have at that. And I'm just saying that you look at Joseph Chilton Pearce's work, and the TV is really, 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 really bad. Really bad. So, in that sense, for the kids, it's not so much. It's not so much the content in Frozen, or the hidden content behind it and where it came from. It's not so much all that drama. It's more having young eyes fixed to the screen, full stop. I mean, to the point Joseph Chilton Pearce didn't care what was on the screen. He literally said, blanket statement, doesn't matter what is on the screen. Blanket statement, that doesn't matter. It's damaging. It's bad. It's very bad. Just literally, like materialistically and physically, being sat in a room staring at blue light, the LED lights, and the frequency of the light coming from that screen, and what it does to the heart-mind connection. And the heart-mind connection is what develops spirit, or connection with God, and the connection with the soul, or however you want to call that. And Joseph Chilton Pearce goes on about it in 5 books. He was manic about it, prolific about that information. He didn't pass away too long ago either. I was surprised I never came across his work. But yeah, so in terms of that, like, in terms of like whatever the psyop might be, like the OG psyop with all that is just to have people stuck to their screens. Especially in the early years, it's really damaging. And then, you know, the working theory on this, like similar to Snow White, because there was a Snow White film, they did the same thing, right? They removed a lot of the story, the original story. Well, the original story is what's important. So the key out of all of this is The Snow Queen by Hans Christian Andersen is probably, you know, one to watch, one to read to the kids. I just saw there was a theatrical production of it. That would be something. Taking a kid to the theatrical production of The Snow Queen, oh, it's probably one of the best educations a kid's going to get. Going to something like that on a Saturday afternoon, Sunday matinee, whatever. The best thing ever. Imagine being that kid. That would be the best thing ever. Oh no, it's a bit dark. The story's a bit dark. Chuck it in the bin. Get Disney to rewrite it. Build a brick wall around all that. Chuck in some, you know, whatever. A few lesbian undertones to get all the truthers all wound up about, you know, sexual programming or what have you. I mean, at the end of the day, programming is programming. Like, someone put that kind of like lesbian overtone or undertone or whatever in the thing, like on purpose, right? They wanted to make it like girl power. And they wanted to make it a little bit woke. So in that sense, yeah, it is what it is. If you're against that, then it is bad. And I don't think that's really the thing that's affecting the kids. The thing that's affecting the kids in the Frozen movie, the thing that's affecting it is actually sitting in front of the screen and being glued to it. I believe Frozen's staying power is because it is from the Snow Queen, and there are archetypal themes that are stuck in that a little bit, just enough for it to be really, really good. And obviously it's a well-written story, like the guy said in this. It's a well-written story. So there you go. You know, on with the journey next week. So thanks so much for tuning in. Much love to you all out there. Yeah, so yeah, shout out to Nick Scored, Eagle Flower, and Sergeant Miller, and Mitzi as well. And shout out to all of you, Revolution Radio, and the listeners and all, and the hosts, and so on and so forth. Love you all. Much love. Take care, and we'll see you at the next one. And my dog Ernie says hi. Okay, love yous all.